Oh my God. We bought a bus. Not a van, not a school bus, but a bus. A transit bus. A used 2014 retirement community transit bus. I've been planning conversion for so long, with my design and my inventory list all ready to go. It just came down to money and making the right choices when we were ready. Oh yeah. Did I mention this also had an engine fire? Did we make the right choice? So, this channel is called Vanfluence, right? As in the influence of van culture. But does that apply to only vans? Of course not. Vans just happen to be the most popular vessel for adventure. Your adventure vehicle can be whatever you want. A van, a car, an ambulance. Question is, what works for you? My family and I have had our adventure van dream for a few years now. It's always been a someday kind of thing. But after coming to terms with how much a vehicle alone would cost before the conversion spending, we had to face a pretty hard truth. We can't afford a premium luxury conversion van. So after developing multiple versions of designs and layouts for our dream adventure van, I pivoted the strategy. Instead of worrying about where or when I was going to get the money for this whole thing, I decided on taking what I can get, making the best of it. I opened myself up to possibility. Within a few days, I found it. So I went on Facebook Marketplace, and I started looking for used vans in my area. I knew it would be tough since what I was looking for had to accommodate the design I'd already created for an extended high roof, Sprinter, Transit, or ProMaster. But again, I realized that maybe I was getting too ahead of myself in planning. I had to be flexible and be realistic with what I could afford. What I found was a 2014 Chevy Express commercial cutaway transit bus. It was about 5 miles from me, and it looked like it had promise. So, we went to check it out, and discovered an opportunity that would be silly to ignore. It wasn't so much the vehicle itself that was exciting, but rather was the opportunities with the find. Sadly, the previous owner passed away before really being able to get started on his own vision. This listing was ideal for and marketed to someone with some imagination to turn this into an adventure vehicle and pick up where the last owner left off. If this seems too good to be true to find an already started adventure vehicle for $4,600, well, there is a caveat. Before being discovered by the last owner, a failure to do a recall resulted in a small engine fire that melted a pretty significant amount under the hood. The vehicle could still run, but it was definitely not road ready. This would mean that even before the conversion and modification could begin, the vehicle would need some work. But what's the good news? Besides having a mechanic and car enthusiast media guru brother-in-law, well, since the conversion had already started, the last owner had already gone to the trouble of purchasing or hunting down most of the burned and melted parts. After all, he was going to convert it himself. So conveniently, all these parts came inside the bus as part of the purchase price. Now it would be a crazy game of Tetris where you're repeatedly given new shapes that you're not sure how fit together. At least that's how it seemed to me, since I'm mostly car illiterate and incompetent. So on the first day we got it, my brother-in-law Mihao got to work on the front end and I started playing inside. The nice thing about getting a new van to convert is that you start with an empty shell. But with a transit bus, you have a unique situation where it's actually already been half converted with things like insulation, wiring, and paneling already done for you. The issue is, what will you change and what will you keep? There's value and cost savings to utilizing existing setups, but there's also compromise in having things not be the way you want them. The first thing I knew at that point was that everything inside had to go. I had no use for the chair ramp, so I knew some point that had to go. I could sell it and recoup the expenses. I also had specific plans for seating, since I have to accommodate a family of 5 and consider how seating and sleeping would work. So on that first day, I went to work pulling all the seats out with plans to sell them as well. When I joined Miho to help with getting the bus up and running, I started doing some real thinking when it came down to cost. See, we're friends with some fellow families who've dabbled in this world of conversion and are using them for reference and inspiration. I set my budget to match one of their conversion stories where they invested $15,000 in a successful school bus conversion. That all seemed fine and great until you accept the fact that those are conversion costs and not repair costs. There's also the idea that instead of buying new things, why not repurpose what you have? It's literally no cost to reuse something that's already there. You just need to be creative about it. I had detached and listed the bus seats when I came to one such realization. So I'm working on the bus here, and I just had a thought. Originally, the plan was that we were going to completely gut this interior. Take out the floors, the ceiling, all the seats, everything that was there. But as I'm reviewing the budget and looking at what we have planned, it almost doesn't make sense to not utilize the seating. These seats are about 10 years old, and they are still in really good condition. And if we can repurpose them to make them perform the way the new seats will, which is multifunctional, meaning they'll be seats but also be convertible to a bed situation, then why not just do that? It's going to take a little bit of creativity, but when you don't have money, what else can you be? So now it's been a few weeks since we got the bus, and things are going slowly, as one might expect if you've got family. In this case, mine and Miho's, as well as balancing work. Doing something like a bus conversion will take some time, and considering that we don't have all the parts needed, it's also going to cost some money. What we're racing now is time. It's almost Halloween, and as summer is officially dying, we've got a pretty limited amount of time to be working outside comfortably. I had originally set up the timeline of at least having this up and running by the time it gets really cold in November, because ultimately, if we can get that much done, we could possibly do interior stuff with a propane heater in here. Remember, I don't have a shop or garage space, just an RV camper space next to the house. You think we're going to get this up and running before it gets cold?